Hi, I'm Julie from Fabric Garden Quilt Shop, and I want to thank you for joining us for our new mystery quilt, Block of the Month. The fabric, as you can see, is this gorgeous fabric from Moda, and everybody should have gotten the full fabric line in their kit, or not the fabric line, but the full amount of fabric you need to make your quilt. And it is from Moda, so you know it's high quality fabric. The designer is Three Sisters, and the fabric line is called Sister Bay. So the fabric pattern comes from Border Creek Station. They are known for writing their mystery quilts, and their patterns are very well written and easy to follow. So what I would suggest is, number one, maybe getting a notebook that you can keep your patterns together. Excuse me, I had a little mental block there. And each month you're going to be getting a pattern to make that set of blocks. I would suggest month one, you will get this piece of paper that has fabrics 1 through 9. You're not going to be using the fabrics in order. So in month one, we are going to be using fabrics 3, 4, 6, and 8. So I've just taped them on this piece of paper just so that I don't have to keep flipping back and forth. And you can just take a little snippet off the corner of your fabric. You'll have plenty to do that. So the other suggestion I have, all of your fabric is enough to make the Quaintly Queen size quilt. If you decide that that quilt is going to be too big for you and you prefer to make the lazy lap, you have plenty of fabric to do that. You can just put that extra fabric in your stash. You can piece it together, use it on the back if you want. We do have a wide back fabric on order that coordinates with the fabric line, and if that is something that you're interested in, you can give us a call and let us know, and we'll set that aside for you. So once you get your pattern, what you need to do is highlight which size you're going to make. I'm going to be making the queen, so I have gone through my pattern and I've highlighted each section that is for the Quaintly Queen. I don't want to make any mistakes. So for fabric, for part 1, you need fabric 8. And if you've done your little list, you know that this is fabric 8 right here. And it says to cut, and I'm only going to give the directions for the queen size, since everybody got the queen size fabric in their kit. And if you don't want to make them, you just need to look up at the lap size. So for the queen size, it says to cut 2+ strips that are 3.5 inches wide. You need to cut 25 pieces that are 3.5 inches square. So my suggestion is to cut the 2 strips. I was able to get 24 pieces out of 2 strips, which means I just need one more 3.5 inch square. Rather than cutting a full strip, I just cut a 3.5 inch square off one corner of the fabric. What you're going to do then is take a little baggie, neatly stack up your fabrics, and mark it with evidence bag A. The pattern does suggest using large Ziploc bags. I was out of them at home, so I had to use smaller bags, but as we progress, I will need to offload them into a larger bag. So you might want to start off with a large bag if you can. So you need to label that bag. You can use a Sharpie, you can stick a piece of paper in there. I have these alpha bitties, which we have at the shop, and I like to tape them on the front of the bag, and alpha bitties are reusable, so that's why I like those. So once I have done part 1, I'm going to put a check there and I know it's done. We're going to move on to part 2, and that fabric is fabric number 3, which is this gorgeous cream with blue ferns on it. And again, you're going to cut a 3.5 inch wide by width of fabric strip. And for the queen size, it says you need to cut 9+ strips because you're going to need 100 pieces. I was able to easily get 9 pieces out of my, 100 pieces out of my 9 strips. So, cut the 9 strips first, and then if you need to cut any extra, you can do that. And then again, once those are cut, I'm gonna put them in a baggie labeled with B, and I'm gonna set those aside. On the next page, you're moving on to part 3, which is fabric 6, and it's this beautiful linen fabric. I have never used linen in a quilt, but I am quite excited to do it. It's very textured, so you're gonna have some different textures in your quilt. So for this one, pay attention because you don't wanna get confused. This one you're cutting a 5.5 inch wide strip, and then you're gonna subcut that into 3.5 by 5.5 inch rectangles. And I just mentioned that because you've just been cutting 3.5 inch squares, so, but you do need a rectangle for this, as you can see, and this is part 3, and I've highlighted 3.5 by 5.5 inch. We're gonna cut 100 pieces, and those are gonna go into evidence bag C. I have a little bit larger bag for that. And then we'll move on to part 4. And for part 4, let me see here, you are gonna be using fabric 4, which is this cream, actually you can see it better here. Fabric 4 is this cream kind of plaid fabric, and you're also going to be using fabric 8, which is what you used at the beginning. So you're going to have these two fabrics here, and you're going to do some strip piecing. What you need to do is you need to cut a 2-inch by width of fabric strip from each fabric, and you're going to cut 5 strips. And then you're subcut those, and I'll get to that in a minute. When you're sewing your strips together, 2 things. If you sew really fast, you're going to end up with a definite bow in your fabric. But that doesn't mean you have to sew at a snail's pace. Just be careful when you're doing it. And I want to show you this here. When you are sewing strips together, you can see on a salvage, you can see on the cream fabric, here's the clear salvage that has the Moda writing on it, and on the blue fabric, there's nothing on that salvage. But when I flip it around, the white salvage is down here on the blue one. If I were to sew this salvage end to the cream salvage end that has the white on it, there is a higher risk of bowing of your fabric. So flip them around. So one end with writing and one plain end together, and then sew your strips, and the chance of bowing is a lot less. So I have sewn these strips together, and the pattern does recommend pressing to the light. Normally, we always press to the dark, but it does specifically say in the pattern, if you press to the light this time, in a next following month, I'm not sure which month it is, but you're going to be using these pieces, and the other piece you use it with, they will nest together. If you press it to the dark, you're going to have to repress everything. Once you have cut those strips, I've sewn those strips together, then you're going to subcut them into a 2-inch wide pieces. So you'll end up with does it say how many? Sorry, I just want to tell you how many you're going to end up with. 100. Yes, you're going to end up with 100 pieces that look like this. Okay, and when you're subcutting, cut several pieces, and then make sure you're still straight, and then cut again, and then make sure everything is still straight on your board. And once those are done, you're done for this month. And I'm sorry there wasn't a lot of sewing this month, just sewing some strips. But as the months go on, you will be doing more sewing. So on the last page of your instructions, you have the evidence room inventory. So you can just double check that you have 4 evidence bags and there's enough pieces in each one. And then you can just tidy these away until next month. And that's it. I hope you have fun doing this. If you have any problems or questions about cutting, you can always give us a call at the shop or come in and see us, and anybody will be happy to help you. Thank you. I'll see you next month.